Hello, everyone, and welcome to BFW 2401, Week 3, Part 2. Now, I hope you have watched Part 1, which is the loan sales. This is a continuation of Part 1, which we moved to securitization. Now, loan sale and securitization from the perspective of the originator, which is the bank, almost the same in terms of moving the loans from the balance sheet and managing the interest rate risk in addition to other risks. However, when we come to securitization, which is the most common practice among banks today, we are moving towards some techniques and vehicles that help us to execute this loan sales through the securitization. Now, having said that, let me share my slides and go directly to the slides. And this is actually what we are talking about. So we are talking about the second part. And this is maybe the most important part. This is the most important slide that actually explains the securitization concept. So you have the originator, which is the bank. Now, this originator will create itself a special purpose vehicle, which is a separate legal identity, or maybe there will be other special purpose vehicle in the market. And Malaysia, for example, we have Kagamas, which take from all the banks. And in some other countries like Australia, special purpose vehicles can be independent identity, but highly regulated. Same in the US and some other countries, because it does a very big job in the securitization process. And there must be, and there is rating for those special purpose vehicles. And this is very important for them to exercise this issue of securitization and least credit risk and most disciplined way to transfer the funds and the loans between the originator and the investors. Now, coming back to here, when there is a securitization, first of all, the originator will make some type of credit insurance. So that will make a credit insurance for credit risk. Now, those loans who have already this credit insurance, they will be transferred to the special purpose vehicle. And the special purpose vehicle now take loans. For example, let me give you an example, a public bank. Public bank is a very big private bank here for international students, just to know that. When we transfer for example, if public bank have 500 loans, each loan is 100 million. 1 million. So we are talking about loans that is 500 million, and they want actually to move those loans from the balance sheet and set them through securitization. The special purpose vehicle now will take those loans and back them. And when they back them, they transform actually the loans to a bond, a security. That security will be sold to the investors. Investors know that this security they are buying are what we call it asset-backed securities, which mean backed by some type of loans or assets. But they don't care about that. They can buy it and they can sell it to other investors and do all those issues. And it will be a capital market product. And the special purpose vehicle are the one who are going to organize all this process of collecting the money from the borrowers and receiving the money and give it as a coupon rate. So the process is like this. The bank will create the loans, pass it special purpose vehicle, transfer to a bond, make the insurance of liquidity because they are worried about liquidity if the cash flow is not stable. They are not worried about the credit risk because the credit risk is already, the loan is given with a credit risk from the originator. And then they move it to the investor. They receive cash from the investors and they move it back to they move the cash back to the originator. And the originator, after this transaction, is free. Now, the relationship between special purpose vehicle and the investor. Let me explain it more in these boxes. So this is actually in time zero. So as you can see now, you have a bank moving special purpose vehicle, which we just talked about. Investors receive the cash to the special purpose vehicle again and move it to the bank. And this is why we call it a pass-through. So it is passed from the bank special purpose vehicle, and the cash also passed from the investors to the special purpose vehicle and go to the bank. Now, what would happen later on? So if this public bank, as you said, have 500 borrowers, so borrower 1, borrower 2, until borrower 500, and the loan is, say, 30 years, and they have to pay it monthly. So we have 360 periods, 30 years times 12. So in each month, there will be payments coming from here to the special purpose vehicle, and the special purpose vehicle will transfer that money to the investors. So it's a coupon. So all of those 500 represent one coupon or one payment monthly that will be passed to this pool of the special purpose vehicle and will bring it to the investors. And this will continue for the next 360 months. So this is what's happening. Now, based on this concept, we have 3 vehicles or 3 techniques. One of them called the pass-through, which I just explained it a little bit. But the second one we call the CMO, which is collateralized mortgage applications. This is similar to the CDOs we have during the financial crisis. However, the CMOs is based on liquidity preferences. The CDOs during the financial crisis was based on credit risk preferences. Now, and we have the third one, which we called mortgage-backed bonds, and we will talk about 3 of them. We will start with the whole concept of pass-through. So take an example. If you have a bank has 100 new fixed rate residential mortgages, and every mortgage is 300,000. So the pool is actually 30 million, which is, given, just multiply the 100 times the 300,000. Now, if the pool is, if this pays 8% with an average maturity of 30 years, if you are going to issue these loans, the bank will increase its assets, and therefore they have to increase their capital. How much they will increase their capital? It's like this, the 30 million times 10.5%, which is the requirement of Basel. Somebody will tell me, what about the 50%? According to Basel requirements, mortgages are only weighted for 50%. And we will talk about this in details when we come to Basel III discussion. Now take it as given. What capital we need is 1,575,000. Now, also, if we assume that the central bank receives 5% of each dollar of deposits, which means you need for this 30 million, if you raise it from outside, you need 1.5 million, which is a reserve. Now, the total fund requires actually is you need a 30 million plus 1.5, which is the reserve, minus what you have going to contribute from the shareholders' money or from the equities, which is the capital contribution, which is the 10.5%. So actually what you need to raise is 29,925,000. Doing this is a big hassle. Why? Because now if the bank, gave all those loans, they will be subject for liquidity problem. They will be illiquid. This is one thing. The other thing, when they give more loans, they are consuming their customer. They are consuming all the resources of liquidity. They are collecting this from the market or collecting it from depositors. If they need liquidity in the future, they may not get it. So actually they are under a liquidity problem because they are giving all those loans. And if they want to take more deposits, they may not get it as they wish. And this is actually create a liquidity. Of course, when you increase your assets now with those very short-term liabilities like saving, retail deposits, whatever, you're giving a housing loan of 30 years and receiving very short deposits, the duration gap and the repricing gap will increase. So that will, expose you to very large positive duration gap. If the interest rate is going down, this is a problem. If the interest rate is going up, it may be a good thing. Now, also you have to arrange for capital. The more you create assets, the more you create capital. And that may stop your operations because you may do these loans and wait now for new deposit to come and give more loans. But to keep the circle going, securitization is the best way to do it. And this is, as I told you, a large practice now in banking around all the world to stimulate the economy and to renew loans, especially housing loans. Now, let's go to the techniques. This is the pass-through security, which we have talked about it, which is this process. Now, tell me, according to this process, what is the worst nightmare special purpose vehicle can have? The worst nightmare is when these payments interrupted, which means either if they are defaulting, we have insurance for defaulting. If they are late, we have insurance for liquidity. But if they don't pay at all and not defaulting, they just go and retire their loans, which we call it prepayments. These prepayments, I will explain about it, and it is one of the biggest problems in securitization. The other thing is there could be housing turnover, which means I take a house and then I move cross country, like I move across those states in Malaysia, or if I'm in Indonesia or Korea or China or whatever, I move, among those cities or states inside the country. And then now if I have a house in Kuala Lumpur, in KL, and I want to move to GPA or to Penang, I don't need this house. So I will hand it over to somebody else. So I may find a new buyer, or I can transfer it to one of my family who will sit on it and assume the loan. This we call assumable mortgages, which means either you sell your loan or you transfer it to somebody. It could be a relative or friend or whatever. Now, this is actually like the cars. You can see a lot of cars in the streets. They are selling it, and you have a sign saying it's a loan. So when you take that car, actually, the original owner will give you the car, and you will go to the bank, and the transfer of this ownership will be from the old owner to the new owner, and you will assume the payments for the rest of the life of that car. Houses are just the same. So assumable loans actually is no problem in terms of repayments, because you will take a buyer with different name and you'll bring another one. End of the day, for the bank, assumable loans are not making a problem. The prepayment is making a problem. And this is happening during the financial crisis, or it can happen anytime. Look, if I take a loans 3-4 years when the economy was booming in Malaysia, and it was 7% and 8%, actually some of them were 6%, assuming it's 6%, and now you go to any bank today and you take a housing loan, they will give it to you for 4%. Now, these 2% different. If I take a loan for 25 years, according to the 6%, and I'm going to pay for the next 30 years for 6%, but the loans now actually is 4%. Why I should do that? Assuming it goes even farther below that, 3% or 2%. So actually, I don't need it. So if I don't need it, I go and refinance. So I will take a loan from the same bank and pay the old loan and take a new loan, or take a loan from other bank and pay this bank, which I take a loan from. This is a problem. There is a good news about it and there is a bad news about it. But the problem is actually This is not a credit risk. This is not a liquidity risk. You cannot claim from the insurance. This is a prepayment that has been settled, which means you will not receive it, which means this payment will be interrupted. The co-bonds is down by one payment, assuming there is one customer who from the pool who prepaid. Now, if this is happening, let's talk about it. Let's first define that prepayment is because of the decreasing in the coupon rates or the interest rates. Now, the effects of lower current mortgage interest rates will lead to the following. It will increase the present value of cash flow stream, because now when the customer comes and he wants to discount all his payment in the future, you would use the new rate, which is less rate. So that will increase because the present value is cash flow over 1 plus I. If the I, which is the discount rate, is less, now the present value of these payments will be high, which is a good news. Now, there will be another good news, which is a faster prepayments of the principal. That's good. But the bad news will be fewer interest payments in absolute terms, which means now when you discount all these payments, this guy will not pay you the principal, or the principal already received, but no more interest be paid by this customer who prepay his loan. And then when you come and you take that money, which is the present value of the settlement, and you want to invest it, now the rates are low. So you have to invest it in a lower rate. This is a bad news. So we have two good news and two bad news. So this is the good news and this is the bad news. So having said that, we agree that the worst nightmare for the special purpose vehicle is this prepayment issue. Banks have to do something about it. And also special purpose vehicle have to do something about it. So they have to, come with some empirical models, very, very, trusted work to predict, and very scientific work to predict and to forecast the prepayment functions. And also the rates, how much rates I should give to the bondholders. And it has to be based on the rates that I'm going to receive because of this interruptions. And also I have to know how much of those prepayment, how much of those loans I should take them to securitization. For example, if I know from my modeling that the prepayments will be 10%. So in this case, if I take 500 loans, I don't have to bring them all to bonds, bring only 90% of them based on the function. Now, to know that 10% and to know how much rate you are going to actually charge or to offer to the bondholder is a very, very scientific work and based on forecasting. So financial institution have to estimate the fair price of the yield of the pass-through, which means how much they are going to offer to the customer, to the bondholders, and they have to estimate also the prepayment function. And to do that, so the conditional prepayment rates are modeled as a function of important economic variables. For example, you will take into consideration the economic situations that coming, the cycle of the economy in the future, booming, recessions, all these issues. You have also to take into consideration the income. You have to take the characteristics of the borrowers. You have to see the development of the areas where you are, giving those loans to. All those issues you have to, of course, you have to have a historical data of people who make prepayments for the last 10 years. If you have this data, and you start to see what are actually the common characteristics that makes people prepayments. Maybe the changes of the rates, maybe the income, maybe the recessions, and the cycle of the economy. So many factors will involve, and this will be revealed by your data. and it needs a lot of analysis. Now, a lot of work here, like time series analysis, like forecasting, like regressions, all of those types. I'm talking to these people who are maybe in statistics, they understand what I'm talking about. But if you are not, it's for the whole cohort. This is just the statistical models, and you will find always, technicals to do that for you. And of course, programs and softwares and all those issues to help you doing this. It's not a big deal. You can learn it and do it, or give it to expert people who can do this work. Now, this actually based on the frequency. So when you have all this frequency in the past, you can actually build a normal distribution or distributions, and from that distributions you can actually predict the prepayment function, and also the suitable rate to be given to the pass-through and to be discussed with the bondholders. This is all the most important things. So now actually the following, this is just to explain to you what is the housing turnover. So I talked about decision to move the houses. You can even sell it. We call it assumable loans, assumable mortgages. They can be because you sell it to someone or you transfer it to someone. You can read here. Now let me come to here to the calculation, which is the pass-through securities. Now, in Australia, most mortgages are fully amortized. Now, when we say amortized, means there is no prepayments. You will find the table from the beginning until the end is amortized, and therefore we can easily, build amortization table if we assume that the mortgages are not going to be prepaid. Now, the way to do that, we want to calculate the payment, and we have to agree on the rate. So we have the rate. So this is just an annuity. Just an annuity to build this amortization table for this issue of securitization. And we need to use this formula. We know the size of the pool. We don't know the payment, and based on the rate, we can calculate the payments. Now, just to make it like here, this is assuming that you have a pool of 100 million that matures in 30 years. This is loans. Maybe there are 100 loans of 1 million, so it's 100 million. We call it a pool, which is the value of all the loans inside that pool. And they mature, all of them mature in 30 years. And I want to talk about something here, and I think I have talked about it, which is the homogeneity. So the loans have to be homogeneous. So if you look at those loans, most of them are housing loans, 1 million. So the payments are the same. The nature and the risk are the same, which is housing loans. The maturity is the same, and the rate is the same. So actually, this is a perfect setting for a bond, because you can back them all you have to do is to make the size of the pool becomes a bond. That's as easy as it is. Now, let's go to the amortization table, which is this one. This has to be built for each issue of loans. For this pool, which has 100 loans, so as you know, it's for 30 years and pays monthly, which means every borrower will pay for 360. And all of them, which means the pool will have 360 payments, because each loan inside that loan will pay 360 inside that bond. Each loan inside that pool will pay 360. So we have from period 1 to period 360. Now, this is the pool, which is column 1, the payments, the pool. Now, I need to calculate only this one, which will be a fixed payments. Now, the fixed payment, to calculate it, we use this formula, which is an annuity one. So we have the pool, and then we have this 12% over 12 months. So M is actually stands for the number of periods during the year. I stands for the rate, and payment stands for the payments, and pool stands for the present value of the pool, which is 100 million. You divide all of those and use this formula, and you find the payment to be 1,028,610, which is this one actually. This one, so this will be payments for the next 360 days, assuming this mortgage is fully amortized, which means there is no prepayments. Okay, now we want to calculate, if we know this, now we can calculate this payment is actually part of it is interest and part of it is principal. How much is the interest? We use this formula. Interest coupon is 100 million monthly payments because it's 12 million during the year. Every month is 1 million. So I know this 1 million, column 3. Column 4 is just what is left from the payment out of the interest is going to the principal, which is actually column 2 minus column 3. So it's 28,610. And then the remaining balance is actually column 1 minus column 4. This is column 4 as you see. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, and this is column 4, which is actually this is column 4. Okay, and then we move. So this is how we do the calculations. Now, I'm not going to talk about these issues because I have to talk. This is all explained already here. This is slide just if you want to read it, refinancing. This is some interesting thing, and this is actually reflecting the prepayment behavior, prepayment function, and prepayment behavior. So if you have Y, which is, or lambda, which is the current mortgage rate, and R is the original mortgage rate. When you are going to prepay, you are going to prepay if the current rate is less than the original rate, which means if the current rate is less than the original rate, which means R is higher than Y, so this area is minus, and this area, the original rate is actually lower than the current rate, which means the minus of those two is plus. So here, there will be too much prepayments by the people, mortgages, because the payments now, assuming this is 8, this is 4, so it's minus 4. So it's, if this is 8, 4, and the original payment is 8, and then the current, the original is mortgage is 8, and the current is 4. So this is minus, and you can see this is very easy to explain. It's just the prepayments is happening when the current rate is less than the original rate. Let me go here. We talked already about good news and bad news of the prepayment. We talked about the empirical models, and we are done with the pass-through. Let's come to the CMO. CMO is a very interesting issue. And this is some type of financial engineering played by whom? By the special purpose vehicle. And the profit they achieve out of this financial engineering goes to the special purpose vehicle, not to the originator. Originator has nothing to do with it now. All the money goes to the special purpose vehicle. So if the special purpose vehicle is really an experienced one, and they can study the market, they can actually identify the liquidity preferences of the investors. And if they can reach to that point, they can start to slide the pass-through into some different slides, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, and then offer each one of them the slides he likes to have. And what do I mean by this? Let me look at this. Let's look at this. Now, the way we create it, we can create it from the beginning as a CMO, or we can create it as a pass-through and then transfer it to CMO. Whatever the way we do it, it's not a big deal. We can do that. We can either change a current pass-through, which is one security, slide it, or we can, from the beginning, when we receive the loan from the originator, create it as a CMO. What do we mean by CMO? I will have classes, or we call it from now on tranches. So we have class 1, class B, class C, class Z, and class R. So what do we mean by liquidity preferences? This is a bank. And banks usually, when they want to invest, they have to manage their liquidity, which means they have more liquidity. They want to invest it for 3 months, 6 months. So they go for government securities, risk-free, 1 year maximum. But they cannot put the money of the depositors in a long-term investment for, say, 30 years. So they don't buy bonds. They are not willing to buy bonds because it will hold a lot of money. So in this case, they need short-term securities, but short-term securities give only little return. They want something with little higher return, but shorter terms. So in this case, this actually CMO is very attractive to them because they can buy it. They can sacrifice some of the returns that is getting, that can be, received by people who are going to receive after them. But they still enjoy the high returns of a long-term bond. And this is why we call them class A. So this class is shortest average life of their investment. They have minimum prepayment protection because prepayments will happen only in the long run. So the protection is less. And then the potential buyers, as I told you, saving banks and commercial banks. This is the people who will buy this one because they need only to invest for short terms. And this is a golden opportunity for them because they can actually take the long-term return while they are investing their money in short term. Now, we have another ones which are able to keep from 5 to 7 years. If this is 1 year, the banks A is 1 year. This is 5 to 7 years. And this is actually, they have a little bit average prepayment protection. So if there is any prepayment problem, they have some protection about it. And the potential buyers, as you see, is the pension funds. We call it superannuation funds in Australia. Here we can call it IPF. In some other countries, you can call it pension fund, or it's the retirement money. Those people are actually will pay us if I retire later on, or if you work, you are just like 20, 21 years. If you work by 22, 23, your retirements will be in the 60. So they can take your money and invest it until you become 60 years old. So this is insurance company actually, and pension funds. Longest average life, which is class C, they have protection against the prepayments, and those also superannuation funds and the insurance companies. And we have class Z. Now, class Z is accrual class, which means, what do you mean by accrual class? These people will just wait for all those people to receive, and then they receive after that. So actually, prepayments only occurs if preceding classes have been paid. So, if you look at that, which means during the life of this security, they don't receive anything, which makes them like a zero bond security, zero coupon security. Zero coupon security, you will put the money now and wait until the end, because you are not going to receive coupons inside the life of this security. It looks like it when you are talking about accrual class or class Z. Now, class R is just the residual. After everybody receives and they receive the residuals, so owner has the right to residual collateral plus reinvestment income once all other classes have been retired. So all of those have been to be retired and to reach to class R. Actually, our main concern is class B, class A, B, and C. Let me give you this example. So this is only A, B, and C. So if you have C, now you see the rates are different. This is class A. He invested 50 million and he wanted to short term. Okay, but I will not give you the rate that is going to receive for the tranche that will receive later on. I will give him 9% because he's going to be patient and he's willing to be patient, not really patient because his investment maturity is higher than yours. So this one is also in the middle, 8%, maybe superannuation funds. This one is a bank. So if we receive 2,500,000, now out of these 2,500,000, you have 1 million payments, you have interest of 1 million, and you have 1,500,000 payments and prepayments. This also, the CMO, just for your information, helps us in dealing with the prepayment problem. So all these prepayments, instead of keeping it there, we give it to, according to the CMO, we give it to the tranche that is ready to receive by that time. So in this case, tranche A is the one who's going to receive. Now, the settings of the CMO is all the tranches A, B, and C, okay, will receive the interest. But the part of the principal will be going only for the tranche that is going to be retired, or the tranche is in the top. Now we have tranche A, who is going to receive all the payments and prepayments plus interest. So if you divided the 2,500,000, 1,500,000 will go to tranche A because he will receive his interest, which is here, 50 million, 7% over 12 months. This is a monthly payment. So he will receive an interest of 291. If you look at tranche B and tranche C, they will receive this money and this money, the same, which is the interest, no problem. But the principal and this 1,500,000 completely, 100% will go to tranche A. Now, when this is happening, tranche A will retire very fast. And assume it's retired now in case 2. Now, in case 2, assuming tranche A already retired, and we have only tranche B and C, and we receive 1,002,0333 payment, in which 7.8 is the interest and prepayment is 500. I know this prepayment will go, I will divide this as interest between the two tranches, but the prepayment will go now to tranche B. So in this case, tranche B will receive 500,000 plus his coupon, which is this amount, and tranche C will receive only the interest. Now this will continue until tranche B retire, and then all the payments will go to tranche C. This is how it works. Now, I will come to this, but as you can see now, if you compare between the MPS, the normal pass-through security, which is MPS, mortgage-backed security, and CMO, you will find that the CMO price is higher. And I will explain this in a while. Look at this example. So how CMO achieves profit? As I told you, special purpose vehicles are smart and they make difference. So if they have 200 million pass-through, just a normal pass-through for 8.5, they will give monthly 70 million, which is 200 million times 8, or yearly annual payments, 0.85, 17 million. Now look at tranche A, to the CMO. If we have 3 tranches, tranche A, 6%, tranche B, I would decrease it from the 8.5 because he's going to go fast. This guy, because he's going to wait, I will even increase it over the CMO, over the pass-through. Instead of giving him 8.5, I'll give him 9. This, because he's going to wait for even longer time and able to wait for longer time, I'll give him 9.5. And if you calculate the payments of this, because the tranches now, this is 200 million, right? 50, 100, 50. This is how you cut the 200 million. When you cut the 200 million, you cut them to 3 slides. One slide is 50, tranche A. One slide is tranche A and give him 6%. 100 million, tranche B, which you give him 9%. And tranche C, 50 million, it's 9.5. If you look at 16,750, they used to pay 70 million. So there is actually a difference of 250,000. This, what you call financial engineering, that has been imposed and created by the special purpose vehicle, innovated by the special purpose vehicle, have benefited them to receive 250,000. So let me go now to the why the price is high. Look, when we look at the present value of the price of time 0 is the price of time 1 minus the return. Let's apply it to this issue. So the price in time 1, which is 200 million for both of them, this is the maturity. Now, if you take it from the interest, so you will pay him 200 million, for example, and then you will sell it now for the return is 16,750. So you decrease this. So as you can see, if you are talking about CMO, you are talking about 183,250. If you just take this example, you decrease this from the 200 million and you decrease this from the 200 million, you will find actually the price of the CMO is higher because the price of the CMO 183,250 and the price of the pass-through is 183 million. This is when we say the price is higher, which means when you sell it, it's higher. Okay, let me go now to the last one, which is the MBP. MBP is a mortgage-backed security. The story is simple of the market, the mortgage-backed securities. Unlike the pass-through and the CMO, who leave the balance sheet, this type of mortgages and securities don't leave the balance sheet, which means the bond is still there in the balance, the loans is still there as an asset. You just create a new liability. I'm talking to accounting people, a new liability called bonds, and then receipts, which means you issue bonds, it becomes a liability, and you receive cash for that bonds. And in this case, the loans stay inside. You just bring bonds, you issue bonds, and you collect the money of those bonds. So your assets and liabilities will increase. And of course, the balance sheet of this bank will be inflated. And the size will be, of the balance sheet will be increased by this issue of securities. And of course, on the liability side and the cash and the asset side. Now, as you can see now, there is no special purpose vehicle. And therefore, all the money coming from the bondholder, from the borrowers to the bank to pay their payments for their loans, there is no distinct and clear line that's saying that the money will go actually to the bondholders. There is a pool inside the bank, cash coming and cash going. So they receive from the bondholders, they issue new, they receive from the borrowers, which is the loans. And then it doesn't mean every loan they receive, like what they do in the pass-through, has to go to the co-bond. No, it goes inside the bank. And of course, from the bank itself, they will be paid to the investors, which is the bondholders. And therefore, bondholders actually are, not really very, comfortable with this. And in this case, they make some type of arrangements and conditions. So if there is anything happening on the bank, they will have a first claim on the mortgages, which means if the bank is going to collapse or whatever, they will take the loans and that will compensate them for their investment, and they keep receiving from the loan holders. Most MBB issues are backed with excess collateral, and this is another problem. So if you have loans of 120 billion, and you want to 120 million, say, and you want to send them, make them MBB and issue bonds, you can issue only bonds for 100 million, which means there is a collateral. It's more expensive. So there is a liquidity problem, as I told you. There is a need for over collateralization, which is 120% for each 100% of loans. And there is also, it's unlike the pass-through and CMO, where the loans will go out and leave your balance sheet, and you will be released from the capital requirements. Here, actually, you are not going to be released from the capital requirements, and it will not be decreased. To know more, this is the mortgage-backed securities, and actually I already explained all those issues, this is just for your mind mapping, and how they are different, how the mortgage-backed securities are different. MBB are normally remains on the balance sheet, and we already know this. There is no direct link between the cash flow coming from collateralized mortgages and the bonds, which means there is only a pool for the whole bank. The MBB is over collateralized. And of course, in terms of the rating of the MBB is higher. Why? Because they are over collateralized, which means if those rating agencies come and they want to make rating for this issue of bonds that is MBB, it actually will have high rating because they know it's 120% of the bonds that are in the market. Almost I'm done. This is the last slide. Benefits and costs. We already know what is the benefits and the costs, I think, by this time. But just to repeat, the benefits of securitization will create new funding for us. We know that. It will increase our liquidity. We know that. And it will manage also our, what we call gap, duration gap. Of course, there will be reserves, saving on the reserves, as we said before, because when you sell the loans, you can pay the depositors back, and then requirements of deposits of reserve is less. There is something called deposit insurance. Now, this deposit insurance premium is only based on the level of liquidity deposits. If you pay this deposit when you sell your loans, now this premium will be less, and of course we will have also a less capital adequacy requirements. Doing securitization is also a hassle in a way and costly in a way. So the cost of public-private credit risk insurance, you remember when we talked about you have to have insurance for credit risk, you have to have insurance also for liquidity. If you are talking about MBB, you have a problem of over-collateralization. We talked about 120% for 100% issue of law of bonds. And when you do the valuation of the bond, when you pass them to the special purpose vehicle, there will be a valuation, there will be a backing, there will be all those costs actually, and there will be a problem of heterogeneity. When we say heterogeneity, we assume all those loans are homogeneous, which means the same loans with the same maturity, with the same rate, with the same payment. But sometimes I can make securitization of car loans and housing loans and business loans. This heterogeneity will create a problem, when you want to, build the CMO or build the pass-through security in a way that you want to stabilize the payments that equals the coupon payments. I'm done for today, and I will see you in the next recording. Thank you. Bye-bye.